last minute change in the program. My good colleague from Business University, David Salazar, couldn't be here because his flight didn't take off. Apparently, I got to know on Monday. So sadly, he's not here according to the program, and I would like to interest you in the psychology of the totalitarian state instead, if that's okay. So basically, it's a topic. It's some kind of political psychology that I was inspired in due to my recent events and recent research. So what I plan to do is, basically, the Austrian school itself is based on methodological individualism. But I propose to take it further in the way that when we talk about control, when we talk about dictatorships, I propose to look at what happens to mental well-being in such conditions, how these mechanisms of control are affecting certain individuals, and how are we being manipulated from a very psychological perspective. And a totalitarian state is a big word, but basically what it boils down to are just individuals in relation with other individuals. So how do they create power structure that can inflict such mental harm on others and can manipulate them so much and can use them as objects instead of subjects? So what I propose is that there actually exists a personality disorder that makes a person see other people not as human beings, but as objects to be used. And there exists a type of psychological abuse that is inflicted by these disordered individuals in individual relation, at home, in the workplace, in many other instances. And we could do a comparative study of what the mechanisms of such disordered individuals are versus what happens in a totalitarian state. What are the traumas that victims live through, and to maybe go a bit deeper into psychology and maybe use this the study of this disorder to better understand the nature of dictatorship, totalitarian state, manipulation, propaganda, and all forms of control. So what is the disorder I'm talking about? Basically, it's called Narcissistic Personality Disorder. It's either genetic or it happens through childhood abuse. The affected individuals actually have impaired, they lack some parts of gray matter in the frontal lobe of their brain. So the symptoms are a narcissist cannot perceive others as separate human beings, and other people are merely objects that serve the narcissist. They cannot experience empathy on any level. They cannot experience love, joy, or sadness. The only emotions that they have is the sense of control that they mistake for love, shame or power, and anger, a lot of anger. And self-esteem is only based on external validation. So they are very preoccupied with perception, with public perception, and they only interact with each other to exert control. So you wouldn't be able to establish truth with a narcissist. Mostly the truth doesn't exist to them. What exists to them is whether you serve their needs or not. When they love a person in a way you would love a new iPhone, because you either are an appliance that is useful or not. It is estimated that 3 to 5% of the population suffer from this disorder. And I have to point out that narcissists are very drawn to the position of power, to position of status, because it gives them external validation. So now what happens when you are entering narcissistic dynamic or a relation with a person with this disorder? So the victim is first tested. Is this a good object? And can it be used for me, for my status? Does it give me a sense of power? Is this person admiring me as her thesis advisor? And the first period of engagement with a narcissist is often very unnaturally positive, because you have to be drawn into this toxic manipulation scheme and engage with the disordered person. However, if you fall out of the script, and by the script I mean that since a narcissist thinks he's the only entity in the world that matters, like life is some kind of a one actor show, and he's the main actor. Everybody else follows a script. You don't know about the script, but you have to follow the script, because if not, then you are useless, you are all bad, and you're going to be devalued and disengaged from and abused. So then if you are, but you are not an object in their agenda, in their drama, in their world, you are your own human being. So when you fall out of the secret script, you will be subjected to devaluation, manipulation, silent treatments. They would pretend that you don't exist. Blame shifting, so nothing can ever be narcissist's fault, because they are blameless and they are completely unable to handle criticism. So whatever happens, it has to be your fault. Gaslighting, it comes from a talk, from a play from 1934 of Patrick Hamilton called Gaslight, where a man dims gaslights in the house to persuade the wife that she is imagining the change and she has a mental illness. So they would tell you that the truth is not really the truth. This didn't really happen. You are imagining it. Is it really the truth? Does truth even exist? Maybe, and that is a base of further abuse. You start to doubt your own perception. Smear campaigns and character assassination. If you are bad to the narcissist, don't follow their plan, you will be portrayed as a bad person in the narcissist circle, your character will be assassinated, and the only reason narcissists interact with people is to assert control. So this is Eco, who was the first victim of a narcissist, and she was basically, she turned only into a voice. There was nothing left of her. And how did I think about the topic? Basically, if you are in a narcissistic dynamic and you fall victim, you will develop complex post-traumatic stress disorder. Most therapists aren't really fit to handle it, and a lot of resources are there online from survival community. So one of them wrote a book, I Miss Me and I Want Me Back, and she argues how a narcissist erases all individuality by treating people as objects that have to serve their agenda, and her trauma symptoms were temporarily unable to recognize human faces. Like that was like the problem with her brain for a while after the abuse. So a narcissist erases individuality because you have to be an object to them. That's interesting. So what I propose is that, of course, we all know how Mises argued that an essential mark of socialism is one-mind acting, but that was economics. So why don't we take it to a bit interdisciplinarily? We all know what happens to the economy if only one mind is active, but what happens to mental well-being of the people? So I propose that the one mind of a totalitarian state definitely suffers from malignant narcissistic personality disorder. And as methodological individualism would tell us, we can basically deconstruct everything, all the abstract concepts, as individuals with relation to each other, acting with each other. There's nothing else in reality. And power not only attracts corrupt minds, but disordered minds that have goals and perceptions that are completely alien to neurotypical people, because it's high status. So if such people, narcissists, sociopaths, take power, they will create these structures that will give you certain trauma symptoms, and that will use the dynamics or the manipulation styles of an individual narcissist in what they are doing to the citizens, to their subjects.
5 minutes.
Okay, so to give a brief comparison, so H.D. Tudor is a self-aware sociopath. He knows what he's doing. General Pacheco was the highest defecting, highest ranked defector from the Eastern Bloc. They both write about manipulation tactics, and both of these books are very psychologically informed, and they basically deal with the same mechanism. So a smear campaign, well, a narcissist will spread lies after they devalue their victim, and it's a common technique in disinformation. For example, Andropov tried to convince the West that Pius XII didn't really save Jews when he could, which is untrue, so that he could smear their greatest enemy and create conflicts between Jews and Catholics. Projection and blame shifting. You found me cheating, you are so controlling. When I beat you in the re-education case, you say, ouch, because you need to understand that you are the problem, never me. Gaslighting, you can't say this happened, this never happened. So, also reactive retaliation of the victims can also sometimes be very dramatic. This is a picture from the main square of my hometown, Krakow, where in 1980, a man has burned himself alive to make people notice the lies about the Katyn massacre and what communists are doing in Poland. But how was he labeled? He was labeled as crazy. This never happened. That wasn't even us. Why are we preoccupied with a crazy person? You will see the same mechanisms in individual narcissistic abuse. Flying monkeys is a very unofficial term. Those are the loyal lieutenants of a narcissist that spread their lies and comply with their agenda because they were manipulated or they have personal gains to do so. On a scale of a totalitarian state, it is self-explanatory. So there's also isolation and the use of silence. Mental murder, where the narcissist pretends that the person who has seen through them doesn't exist, or actual murder. The upkeeping of the facade. The narcissist has to be seen as perfect to the outside world. There are a lot of dynamics that further traumatize the victim. The symptoms like mistrusting your sanity, general trust issues, dependence of the abuser, the inability to make independent choices, they are very similar. So the defense is really to set boundaries and assert truth. Truth is very important in this equation. And what I would say is that, firstly, well, there was a study about comparing Eastern and Western Germany showing that the reason why they are still not on the same or similar level in economic development is not economics itself, but the impaired ability to make independent decisions on the east side and some style of symptoms that resulted from abuse. So my proposition is that dialectics is a very nuanced form of gaslighting that makes you doubt the truth. Dialectics is just gaslighting, like truth can be anything. And this is used to manipulate people. And the disciples of Hegel may create abstract entities that don't really exist in the real world, but what exists in the real world are narcissists and disordered people that seek to have power, that would use the manipulation of creating this spirit and tell you, you are not your own person, you are supposed to comply with this spirit. Thank you.
Are there estimations how many politicians and how many people in the media suffer from this disease?
So it's actually pretty hard because mostly it's not diagnosed officially because a narcissist wouldn't believe that there's something wrong with them. So if they are really diagnosed, it's because they end up in therapy for other things. They would never admit there's something wrong. So I think the statistics could be skewed. It's 3 to 5% in clinical population. I'm sure that in politics, in high-level institutions, in esteemed institutions, is way higher.